All right, welcome everyone. Today we're diving into a concept that is, and I'm not exaggerating, one of the cornerstones of modern business decision-making, marginal analysis. Now, you might have wondered about the real math behind a buy one, get one free deal, or why your favorite app is constantly rolling out new features. Well, the answer to both lies right here, in this powerful way of thinking. This is the secret tool that successful managers use to decide what to do next, and today we're going to master it.
So let's start with that question. We see these BOGO deals everywhere, right? And on the surface, it feels like the business is just giving away product, maybe even losing money. But it's actually an incredibly smart, calculated move. It's a strategy that completely hinges on understanding the value of one more item to you, the customer, and comparing that to the cost of that one more item to them, the business. This simple comparison is the absolute heart of marginal analysis, and we're about to unpack it piece by piece.
So here's our roadmap for today's lecture. First, we'll get a really intuitive feel for this idea of one more. Then, we'll put a formal definition on it, marginal utility. From there, we'll bridge theory to practice and see how businesses actually apply this. We'll look specifically at pricing and product strategies. Then we'll cover some common mistakes, so you can avoid them. And finally, we'll zoom out and see how this is really a powerful mindset for all kinds of decisions.
Okay, first things first. To really get this concept, let's ground it in a scenario I'm sure we've all experienced.
I want you to really picture this. You're at an all-you-can-eat buffet, and you're starving. That first plate of food, it's incredible, absolutely amazing. The second plate is still really good, but by the time you're considering a third plate, you're slowing down. A fourth? Probably not a great idea. And a 10th plate? I mean, that's just unthinkable. The food is exactly the same, but your desire for one more plate has completely vanished. That feeling, that decline in satisfaction, that is the core phenomenon we're studying today.
Now, let's put the formal academic name to that feeling of diminishing desire. In economics, we call this marginal utility.
Let's break this definition down, because every word here is important. Utility is simply the economist's term for satisfaction, or benefit, or value. And marginal? Well, marginal just means on the edge, or the next one. So marginal utility is nothing more than the satisfaction you get from consuming one more unit. Notice, it's not about your total satisfaction. It's all about the value of the very next one.
This chart perfectly illustrates what we call the law of diminishing marginal utility. This is a fundamental principle of consumer behavior. Look at that first bar. That first slice of pizza, when you're hungry, gives you a massive amount of utility, a ton of satisfaction. The second slice? Yeah, it's still good, but the additional satisfaction is clearly less. By the time you get to the fifth slice, the extra utility you get from it is tiny. The more you have of something, the less you value getting one more. And this brings us to an absolutely critical distinction you have to understand. On the left, we have total utility. After 5 slices of pizza, your total utility is probably pretty high. You're full, you're happy. But on the right, we have marginal utility. This is a satisfaction you'd get from that 6th slice, which might be 0 or even negative if it makes you feel sick. As a business leader, you have to realize that even if you have a very happy customer, their willingness to buy one more thing from you in that moment may have completely disappeared.
Okay, so we've got the theory down. We understand the consumer psychology. The big question now is, how does a manager and entrepreneur turn this insight about human nature into smart, profitable decisions?
This quote just nails it. Think about a restaurant offering free refills on soda. For you, the thirsty customer, the marginal utility of that second glass of soda is quite high. It's really satisfying. But for the restaurant, what's the marginal cost? It's literally pennies, a little bit of syrup, some carbonated water. That huge gap between the high perceived value for the customer and the very low actual cost for the business, that is where profit and customer loyalty are built. That is thinking on the margin.
So this leads us to the operational framework that businesses use every day. It's a simple 4-step process. Step 1, you estimate your marginal revenue. That's the extra money you bring in from one more sale. Step 2, you calculate your marginal cost, the extra cost of producing one more unit. Step 3 is the golden rule of decision-making. You compare them. As long as the marginal revenue is greater than the marginal cost, the decision is profitable. You do it. The moment they're equal, you stop. And step 4, which is crucial, you reevaluate constantly because markets, tastes, and costs are always changing.
Now let's get even more practical. Let's see how this simple MRMC framework shapes some of the most common pricing and product strategies that you encounter every single day. Take a look at this table.
It shows how different business models are explicitly designed around the principle of marginal utility. Buffet pricing, they charge you a high fixed price up front because they know your marginal utility for each additional plate is going to drop off a cliff. A la carte pricing is the opposite. They maximize profit on those first few items where your utility is super high. And think about subscription tiers for software or streaming services. They are literally betting that the marginal utility of getting rid of ads or adding more features is high enough to justify that extra monthly fee.
And this way of thinking isn't just for pricing. It is absolutely central to product development and innovation. Imagine you're a product manager at a tech company. An engineer comes to you with an idea for a brilliant new feature. The first question you must ask is not, how much does it cost to build? The first question is, what is the marginal utility of this feature for our customers? Will they actually value it? Is the benefit high enough to make them choose our product over a competitor's? You weigh that potential marginal revenue against the marginal cost to build it. If the customer value isn't there, the feature is a waste of resources, no matter how clever it is.
All right, let's shift gears slightly. A critical part of mastering any concept is knowing the common pitfalls. These are the traps that are easy to fall into when you first start applying marginal analysis, so let's make sure we're aware of them.
Okay, mistake number one, and it's a big one, confusing marginal cost with average cost. When you're deciding whether to produce one more unit, the average cost of all the units you've already made is irrelevant. It's a sunk cost. Only the cost of that next unit matters for the next decision. Second, never forget that every customer is different. Utility isn't universal. You have to segment your market. Third, your business does not exist in a vacuum. A competitor's new offer can completely change your customer's perceived value of your product overnight. And finally, never get so obsessed with your own costs that you forget to think about the customer's perceived value. If a feature is cheap to add, but nobody wants it, it's still a bad investment.
So let's bring all of this together. Let's synthesize this into a final takeaway thought about what it really means to think on the margin.
Here is the most important thing I want you to take away from our lecture today. Marginal analysis is so much more than a formula you memorize for an exam. It is a fundamental mindset. It's a way of making optimal decisions at the edge. You're using it right now when you decide whether the benefit of studying one more hour for this class is worth the cost of not starting your other homework. Businesses use it to decide on the next hire, the next marketing dollar spent. It forces you to ignore the past and focus only on the incremental impact of the very next choice you make.
So, I will leave you with a question to ponder. Think about your favorite app on your phone, Spotify, Instagram, whatever it is. Think about the last new feature they added. What was the marginal utility of that feature to you? Did it actually make your experience better? And now, ask the real business question. If they charged you an extra $1 a month for it, would you have paid? Answering that question is at the very heart of thousands of multi-million-dollar decisions being made as we speak. Understanding how to answer it is fundamental to understanding and succeeding in the modern economy.